Health Department at Somerset County Council. My area includes responsibility for dealing with alcohol licences.
I'm Patrick Burke and I'm representing the applicant today.
Simon Gass, Licensing Officer for the Sedgemoor Council.
Kate Trunks, Assistant Licensing Officer for Sedgemoor District Council.
Emily Webber, Legal Apprentice for Sedgemoor District Council.
Lola Nicholson, Committee Manager for today.
Nigel Osborne, Legal Advisor to the panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll start with the agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence. Don't believe we have any. Item number 2 is urgent business, which we don't have any of. Item number 3, declarations of interest. No declarations of interest. Item number 4, Scoop Retail Limited. We're here today to consider an application for a new premises licence for Scoop Retail Limited, 77 St John Street, Bridgewater, TA6 5HX, following objections having been received in the attached report. So who is presenting here today? Lovely. Kate, if you'd like to present the application, thank you.
Good afternoon. The matter before you today, as you'll see from the report, is to consider an application for a new premises licence in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, where a formal objection has been received. On the 10th of August 2022, an application for a new premises licence in respect of 77 St John Street, Bridgewater, Somerset, TA6 5HX was received from Scoop Retail Limited. The applicant seeks authorisation for the retail sale of alcohol off the premises only, daily from 0500 hours to 2300 hours. The business is currently operating as a newsagent and general store. A redacted copy of the application is attached to Appendix A, and a plan of the premises is attached to Appendix B. A set of maps showing the surrounding area is provided as Appendix C. A representation regarding the application has been received within the permitted timeframe from Mr. Stuart Brock on behalf of the Director of Public Health, Somerset County Council. The representation is attached as Appendix D with background information regarding health as a licensing objective, HALO, shown in Appendix E. The objection touches on the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm licensing objectives. The police have agreed a set of conditions with the applicant for inclusion within any granted licence. These are attached as Appendix F. The options before you today are to grant the application as applied for, to grant the application with attached conditions, to grant the application in part, to grant the application in part with attached conditions, or to refuse the application. This concludes my report. I do have an additional document to be distributed. Thank you, Simon. This shows, premises with premises licences in the immediate vicinity of St John Street and Eastover. The premises highlighted in yellow are all off-sales premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Panel members, have you got any questions?
No.
No. Anybody else got any questions at the moment for Ms. Trunks? No? Okay, lovely. Right, so next we'll move on to the applicant, and obviously Patrick, would you like to speak now? Thank you.
Can I just have a read through these and just question?
Yes, of course. Yes, please do. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I'll just give you a little bit of background first into my client and into the application. My client has run similar businesses for many years without a ship. How many? He's got, I think he's got two. Three. It's got 3 other premises, including a restaurant as well in Bristol. And he's had those for the one shop I know he's had for many, many years. It's 24 hours and he's never had any issues with it. This particular premises has been run by the same family for over 35 years. But the couple that are running it are retiring. Their daughter's a police officer, so she wasn't in a position to take over the business from her parents. So that's my client is buying the lease on it. The only objection is from the local authority. Obviously, my client is looking to spend quite a lot of money on this premises, and he's planning in the future on turning it into not just a general store, but a post office as well. So it's going to be even more benefit to the community. We agreed a number of conditions with the police, and I think if you actually go over the application, I think the conditions that we agreed with the police were just reworded conditions that we'd already put into the application. So there was nothing particularly onerous about the conditions that we agreed. I contacted Stuart directly to try to come to an agreement with regards to this application. We were happy to have the conditions suggested by Stuart included in the operating schedule. However, he wanted it to come to a hearing. I genuinely thought the only thing that we hadn't agreed on was the sales of the hours for the sale of alcohol. The premises has opened from 5 o'clock in the morning for the last 35 years, so it would be very difficult to stop doing that. But we would be prepared to reduce the hours for sales of alcohol first thing in the morning. So this is not just, it's suggested within the objections that this is an off licence. It's not just an off licence, it's going to be an off licence and general store, and hopefully in the future a post office. He's already got a post office, so the possibility of being able to do that is very, very high, and that is something that would really benefit the community. The objection refers to the number of licensed premises in the area. This is not in a community impact zone and should be judged on its own merits. So really the number of premises isn't really relevant. We don't generally know what the breakdown of sales between general goods and alcohol is, but throughout his other businesses it ranges about 15%. Now I know that may seem kind of just a small percentage, however it is a vital percentage to the success of the business. The objection refers to statistics regarding the area and relationship between alcohol health and alcohol and crime. There are no objections from the police with regards to this application, and I think they are the experts on crime. And with regards to, it's my belief that the statistics presented are still speculative with regards to this particular application. And with regards to that, I would cite the case of Thwaites v. Wirral. The case in the High Court on the 6th of May 2008 has emphasised the principle laid down by the Licensing Act 2003 and its accompanying guidance, section 182, that there should be a light touch bureaucracy applied to applications for licences, and restrictions should only be attached to a premises licence if they are necessary to promote the licensing objectives. It also highlights the fact that decisions on applications should be made on evidence and not based on speculation. And it's our application that the letters of the representation submitted, as in the case of Thwaites v Rule, is speculative in its contents, and if the authority gave way to this speculative opinion, it would in fact fail to follow section 182 and its accompanying and its own statement of licensing policy. That's all I'll say at the moment, but I will sum up at the end if you don't mind. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Panel members, have any questions?
I have
No? Licensing? No? Objectors, any questions?
Yes, if I may. Chair, thank you. You referred to the evidence from the Halo tool as speculative rather than evidential, but it's not hard evidence. I would need to dispute that, in that the Halo tool, we can present to the panel later on the Halo tool that the panel will find out of the systems, pulls together quite a large number of data sets which evidence the level of alcohol harm in the locality. So I'm not sure why you would suggest it's speculative rather than evidential.
I said it's my belief. It's my belief that it's speculative in that this shop has never been used for selling alcohol before. So there can't be evidence to say that should this shop and should this applicant be allowed to sell alcohol from that premises, that it's going to create issues of crime and disorder, public nuisance, public safety, or be harmful to children, or in fact be a risk to the future health of the residents, because it's never been used for that before. So there can't be evidence for it, for this particular application.
If I can come back, can I just get clarification then that do you accept that the evidence we presented in terms of that's come from the Halo tool does show clear evidence of alcohol harm in the locality? I accept what you're saying, of course, the premises haven't been used for alcohol in the past, so it can't be related to that premises from the past. It relates to alcohol sales and alcohol harm in the locality as a whole.
It does, but statistics can be made for what. I actually had a hearing recently in Peterborough. We actually got the licence granted, where we had an objection from public health, and the information in there was very, very similar to what's in this. So it's kind of, you know, I understand there's concerns. There's always concerns with regards to, you know, alcohol-related issues, how alcohol affects us in the future, all that kind of thing. But, you know, it's my opinion, this is still speculative because there's no evidence with regards to this particular application.
Shall we leave it there? Okay, no more questions then. Would the objectors like to make their presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The basis for this objection is from a public health perspective, so obviously I represent the Director of Public Health. And until further recently, we've not had a means of identifying alcohol harm on a very localised basis. And in recent times, we developed, based on work really from Public Health England, we've developed a tool called the Halo tool, which you've heard referenced. And that tool pulls together data sets from police, from the NHS, from public health, from various other data sources as well, to pull together a picture of the level of alcohol harm in each locality. We refer that to a local super output area as a locality, in this case East Dover Central. And what you will see on that tool, and I think you have it in your appendix, is that in this area we have the 6th highest level of alcohol harm in the county. Alcohol harm is often greatest in town centre areas, so Bridgewater Town Centre, Taunton Town Centre, Guildford Town Centre, the top three. That you would not be unexpected. This is obviously an off-town centre area. The particular indicators that are of particular concern and are relatively high, well above average, are things such as alcohol-specific admissions to hospital. That is admissions that are caused directly by alcohol and alcohol-caused conditions. Alcohol-related conditions are also above average, but that is a much wider definition. And then we have various crime-related statistics as well, all of which are, again, well above average, including drink driving of people who live in that locality and alcohol-related violence. So all of those matters give us cause for concern. Now, we're not experts in licensing, we're experts in public health and alcohol. So forgive us if we don't understand necessarily the full process involved here or the niceties of the legalities. Obviously, that's your expertise and your legal advisor's expertise. But we felt that another off-licensed premises in this locality is going to add again to the already significant levels of alcohol harm here. The difficulty we recognised was that obviously this particular premises hasn't had a licence previously, and so we can't look at a track record of how that premises has been managed. And we have no evidence that the applicant himself has any bad track record at all. So we're not suggesting that either. What we're bringing to your attention really is that if you do licence this premises, then we would expect the level of alcohol harm to be increased to what is already above average levels of alcohol harm in the locality. And that is the basis of our representation. It's been framed as an objection, but we see it as a representation to you so that you are able to take a decision on whether to license on a fully informed basis, taking into account the public health evidence. It is it is good evidence. I can actually take you through more of the statistics of it if you wish to. My colleague Carol here was involved in developing the tool. And it's a tool that's now being used and being actually used by other areas to take forward themselves. I think that's all I'll say at this point, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Did you want to say anything? No, okay. Questions, panel members? Go ahead.
Oh, I've died. Where are you? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you've identified that the area has a high level of alcohol issues. Can you be more specific about whether the issues that derive from off sales, from the existing off licenses, from the pubs, or indeed from Asda off sales, or from some other outlet further afield?
No, we can't. Sorry. I must die just specifically, no. The way the tool works is that it pulls together data, so we pull in the police data as one source, and that will tell us for that locality the levels of alcohol harm. So we would have to go back to the police to have specifics on that. Obviously, the police are not objecting today; they've agreed conditions. So that's not how the tool works. We can't identify it specifically. What we're looking at here is population level harm. So this is harm to the resident population of Eastover Central specifically, because that is what this data relates to. It doesn't relate to populations who live outside of Eastover Central, and it doesn't say where those people who are having alcohol harm in Eastover Central purchase their alcohol either.
So why are you linking adding one more licensed premises to an increase in more alcohol harm?
Because there's very clear evidence in the academic literature which shows that if you increase the number of off licenses, that increases the level of alcohol harm. Again, there are references in the written submission.
And do you have evidence in your Department of Public Health for Somerset and Bridgewater that it's causation and effect that the number of alcohol premises in that street is leading to the highest level, or sorry, the sixth highest level of alcohol problems in the county?
What we have is the academic evidence. So that's
You
not,
don't have any
that's
specific
not
evidence that
specific
you,
to
you
Somerset.
yourselves have collected?
We don't collect evidence on whether individual premises can cause specific issues, because we're working at the population level and we're looking at the harm to the population as a whole.
Well, it could be something completely unrelated to the number of alcoholic premises. You might have one and there might still be the same issues. You might have zero, you might still have the same issues, because the reason why people have alcohol problems in that area is not related to the number of premises available, but the fact that they have alcoholic problems. And they could be buying their alcohol from anywhere and still having the same problems.
They could indeed, however, there's very clear evidence that if you increase the availability, both in terms of the number and density of off licenses, and if you increase the availability by increasing the opening hours overall, then that increases the level of alcohol harm.
Well, I think it's rather an academic argument, to be fair to the applicant. You're referring to a survey, or sorry, an academic paper, but you have no specific evidence for that particular area.
So what we have is evidence, not from one paper, but from numerous papers, that increasing the availability of alcohol does increase the level of alcohol harm in those localities. So I would suggest that that is relevant to the situation.
Yeah, but again, you accept that the police have said that the existing premises are not the causation of any problems as far as they're concerned.
Yes, because clearly the existing premises does not have an alcohol license at present. So
No. The other licensed premises are not causing the police undue concerns that another one be opened.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Police aren't here to speak for themselves, of course, but they have suggested quite a long list of conditions. I was suggesting an unusually long list of conditions for an off-licensed premises of this type, actually. So that would suggest to me they do have concerns about the alcohol harms in the locality.
Thank you.
Are you objecting purely on the health reason, on the public health agenda?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, there's no other agenda here, I can assure you.
No, I don't think there would be, but I just wonder whether it's just that one objection that you're raising on that one area.
Yeah. So, but to be clear, then obviously health is not a licensing objective in its own right, and this relates to issues of crime and public safety and things such as domestic abuse.
Thank you.
Questions?
Just following on, very similar to Councillor Human's question, you mentioned there that that area is the sixth highest problem in the county. Is that correct? Can you classify what exactly you mean by area? As within your objection, you make references to off licenses, etc., in the TA65 postcode. Is that what you refer to as area, TA65?
No, so the area is the local super output area, which is a statistical term which is used by the ONS, but essentially is the area that's east over central. So it's quite a small area. It's about 1,500 population typically, and it's smaller than TA65. The reason I referred to TA65 was simply to look at the number of, we did a quick check for the number of licenses in TA65, but you produced a bigger list this morning of licenses in the area as a whole.
So just to clarify, I mean, the reason for my question is I live in the TA65 postcode, and I'm a good 15-minute walk from the location through a very large built-up area. So we are talking about a lot of people and accommodation and properties within that postcode. So that's why I wanted to clarify what you meant by area exactly.
Yes, and to be clear, the output from the Halo tool is east over central. It's not TA65, it's a much smaller area.
Patrick, have you got any questions?
No. Just want to reiterate that the police have no objections to this application. Just want to reiterate that the police have no objections to this application. And if you read through the original application that was submitted and the conditions agreed with the police, you'll find that they're very, very similar. The wording might be somewhat changed, but the application and the basis is very, very similar. So we had no, I think there was a restriction with regards, off the top of my head, I think there's some restrictions with regards to the ABVs of beer and things like that. That tends to be a standard thing now, up and down the country. But the application that we submitted is very, very similar to the wording that we agreed with the conditions of the police. So we didn't have a room of conditions to agree with the police for them to be satisfied. Most of it was in the original application anyway.
Okay. Nigel?
Yeah, the applicant made reference to discussions about opening hours, and I just wondered if you could touch on your thoughts on that.
Yes, so there was clearly some confusion between us in terms of the submission. So the submission we made is a representation to set out clearly we think if this licence is granted, there will be alcohol harms. However, if the panel was minded to grant a licence, then a particular concern was the very early opening hours of 5 AM for alcohol sales. And we also wanted a condition around ABD, but that's been, as you say, addressed by the police. So that was a fallback position. So we have the representation against the licence, but if the panel is minded to grant a licence, then we would have sought a condition to limit the hours to some degree.
My only thing, I just wanted to pick up on what you just said about the police have put in an unusually large list of conditions. It's not really, that's pretty standard for us when they're putting in a condition. So that isn't really, I think, a concern for us. Okay, I think we'll do some summing up then. Oh, have you got another question?
Just one brief question for the applicant and your rep. I think it's Appendix B, is it in the papers? Which is the plan of the premises you've got in there. I've used the shop in the past, so I know what it's like. It does appear quite considerably different, the layout as in the plan at the moment. That you mentioned about potentially expanding to a post office. I'm assuming that this is the intended layout if your licence were to be granted, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, let's do some summing up. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I've got no questions.
No.
No, thank you.
No. Okay. Patrick, have you got anything else you just want to add before we leave the room?
Yeah, just looking at the hours for other licences in the area, they're all from round about 6 o'clock. They've got
6, 7 and 8 o'clock.
6, 7 and 8 o'clock. This shop has been trading from 5 o'clock in the morning for the last 35 years. Just something to bear in mind. Would you like me to sum up?
Yes, please.
Yeah. As I said at the beginning, my client has a wealth of experience within this type of business. There are no objections from the police with regards to crime and disorder within the area. And the conditions that we agreed are conditions, for me, having been a licensing consultant for the last 17 years, are pretty standard conditions. It's nothing new. It's nothing onerous, nothing that we couldn't agree with anyway. And with regards to, I think it should also be noted that there was absolutely no objections from any of the local residents within the area, not just from any other responsible authorities, but from any of the local residents. And with that, I'd like to just point out when this licensing act came into force in 2005, I was actually a pub company area manager, and I went to the first hearing that I went to was in Newcastle under Lyme, and it was for a pub, and the local residents were objecting because this pub wanted to open on a weekend till 1 o'clock and wanted to do a little bit of entertainment. And the residents were up in arms because they said if they licensed it till 1 o'clock, they'd go on till 3 and all this kind of thing. And the license was actually refused. And then about 2 years later, I moved on and I was running my own business. And I got a call from someone from the council in Newcastle on the line. That particular business had changed hands about 6 times within 2 years. No one could make it a viable business. And the neighbours, the residents in the area, were complaining to the council that it was boarded up and it was being used at the weekend as a drugs den. So I think just sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. You've got a very, very experienced operator here who is taking on a premises, spending a lot of money on it, hoping to improve the business for the community. And I think particularly in today's day and age, when fuel costs are rising, you don't know where you are with regards to business. I think it's a very, very brave thing to do. And I think he should be commended on what he's trying to do here. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Can I quickly ask what the 3 other businesses are, the ones you have in Bristol?
I've got Bristol 86 Bedminster Road is a cafe and the bar and the restaurant. 80 Bedminster Road, 24 hours operations, post office, to the 12 post office. And I got other one in Exmouth, Salterton Road service station, 24 hours as well. I had many garages around this areas as well.
Just as a point of interest, who's going to manage the premises? Will it be the applicant, or is it going to put the manager in? And if it's going to be a manager, is that somebody who's used already, or is it going to be somebody new?
I'm going to be managing. I will be managing. I will have a staff there. I will already travel in the same way because I got to travel to Bristol to Exeter every day.
He's actually got a good team of people around him that he's been utilising for years, so that they're all familiar with their responsibilities and what the responsibilities are within each particular business.
Thank you. Would you like to sum up?
Yes, thank you. So, from a public health perspective, it's quite difficult. We're obviously a responsible authority. We're expected to make representations when we think it's appropriate from a public health perspective, based on the licensing objectives. It's becomes more difficult when a premises is not an existing licensed premises and does not have an alcohol license. Public health is, as it says in the title, it's concerned with the health of the population. And that's why we look at the locality in the area and what the level of alcohol harm is. And that is the basis of the objection, in that we see a significant level of alcohol harm which will be increased if this licence is granted. Almost regardless of the particular premises, if you increase the density of alcohol premises licences and you increase the availability of alcohol, then that will lead to increased levels of alcohol harm. And so the basis of the representation is to make sure that you as a panel are fully informed about level of alcohol harm in that locality, in order that you can form a judgment as to whether it's appropriate to license the premises or not. And as I said previously, if you are minded to license the premises, then we would ask you to consider whether, again, in terms of reducing availability, whether it's appropriate to limit the hours to some degree from those that are on the application.
Thank you.
Dare I?
I don't know, do you?
I would like to ask another question about what you just said. In other areas, or any area in Somerset, where licence have allowed an increase in number of premises, in a confined area, have you got evidence that the amount of alcohol abuse has increased thereafter? No, not yet, because the tool is relatively new. So we only have data from, how long has it come? We have data from?
Covers 5 years later, but what changes, not increases in off licenses.
Then your statement is rather speculative. It's not based in hard evidence. You said that where new premises arise in an area where there's already alcohol problems, there's going to be even more alcohol problems. That's not strictly accurate, is it?
I disagree. What we have is very clear published research evidence which shows that if you increase the availability of alcohol, you will increase the levels of alcohol harm, and the specific evidence around off licenses. So I would suggest that is very clear evidence. What I can't produce for you is evidence in specific in terms of Somerset data that if you increase the number of licenses in a locality, alcohol harm will increase. Clearly, if we see increases in alcohol licenses over time, and we have this tool in place, we've only been using this tool this year effectively. So although it's got 5 years of data, the tool's only been used for a short period of time. And clearly, it will take time for data to accumulate before we're able to look at anything in terms of individual localities and the level of alcohol harm there.
So where are these other areas where the data is there?
So I think you're conflating two things. So I need to be very clear. There are two separate things here. The Halo tool is very specific to Somerset, and it looks at Somerset data. The research evidence, the evidence about the increasing availability leading to increasing harm, is national and international research evidence. That's not Somerset specific.
Okay. Okay. I will, Mr. Guest.
Just for clarification then, where we said about the area was the 6th highest in the county, are you able to confirm which is the highest in the county?
That is Taunton Town Centre.
Okay.
With Taunton Town, are you talking, is it a sort of per capita measurement that you're making?
No, it's because each locality, each LSOA has roughly the same population of 1,500 people.
Okay.
So that equalises out. But it's based on the resident population. It's harms to the resident population.
So we're talking about the same number of heads in the highest ranking place compared to the one we're talking about here.
Yes, in terms of residents, yes.
In terms of residents in that area, and are we talking that there are lots more alcohol outlets in that Taunton area compared to here?
If you want to
Yeah, so Taunton will have above average numbers of off license, for example, but I couldn't tell you off the top of our heads how many compared to this LSOA. But what the Halo tool does is it looks at the number of for example, off licenses at LSOA level and compares it to the mean or the average for Somerset. So it does that calculation to say that this specific area or LSOA has above average number of businesses or off licenses. But also it looks then again at things like alcohol related hospital admissions, and as well it does a calculation on that to see how many alcohol related admissions for that area are compared to the mean for Somerset. I hope that's clear. Sorry.
And clearly there are a lot of alcohol related premises in Taunton Town Centre, and some of those indicators would be higher. So violent crime, for example, you would expect to be higher in the town centre area.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, I think at this stage we're going to now adjourn to the members' room and discuss further, and we will be back with our decision as soon as we can. Thank you very much. The Licensing and Gambling Panel has been asked to consider an application for a new premises licence for the premises known as Scoop Retail Limited, 77 St John Street, Bridgewater, Somerset, following an objection from the Director of Public Health. The panel is advised that the applicant had reached agreement with the police for conditions to be included on any licence that may be granted, and therefore there is no formal objection from them. The panel has considered all of the evidence presented by the applicant and objectors, both in person and in writing. The panel's decision is made in accordance with the Council's Statement of Licensing Policy, the Secretary of State's guidance and current case law. The application as submitted is for the sale and supply of alcohol off the premises between 5 o'clock in the morning to 2300 hours, 7 days a week. Our decision is that the panel recognises that this is a well-prepared application with a comprehensive operating schedule and additional conditions have been agreed with the police. The application as submitted is for the sale of alcohol mirroring the opening hours of the premises. The objection submitted by the Director of Public Health is detailed and it's in its submission and raises many thought-provoking issues, albeit primarily academic rather than premises specific. The objection is driven by the significant number of premises licensed to sell alcohol in the vicinity. The Council's licensing policy states that shops, stores and supermarkets should generally be permitted to sell alcohol off the premises during the normal hours they intend to open. As a new application, this premises has not and is not a focus of disorder and disturbance, thereby limiting the ability of the panel to legitimately restrict the licensing hours. The Council does have a cumulative impact policy, however. Sorry, let's start that one again, thank you, Will. The Council does not have a cumulative impact policy. However, the licensing policy makes some reference to cumulative impact, primarily in relation to late night entertainment premises. The panel recognises the seriousness of public health within the licensing regime, but despite much lobbying, public health is still not one of the licensing objectives. Therefore, the panel is restricted in its deliberations on the impact of this application would have on the current 4 licensing objectives. The objection recognises that the risk to the promotion of the licensing objectives is not a reflection on the applicant or the application itself, more being reflective of the potential risk that an additional licensed premises poses within the vicinity. The panel believes that in his application and by accepting the proposed police conditions, the applicant has gone a long way to addressing the concerns of the Director of Public Health in so much as they affect the licensing objectives. Given that the premises has historically opened at 5 AM and that the existing premises within the locality opens between 6 AM, 8 AM, and given the Council's policy, it is not considered appropriate to reduce the requested hours. Therefore, it's the decision of the panel that the new premises licence be granted to Scoop Retail at 77 St John Street, Bridgewater, Somerset, on the terms requested, subject to the terms of the operating schedule and the conditions agreed with Avon and Somerset Police. So we've granted your licence and good luck with your new business. Thank you. Thank you all very much for coming.